Welcome to the Lifestyle Property Podcast. I'm Jamie Greaves, your host and professional property investor. I'm here to bring you insights, home truths and powerful stories about what really goes on in property investment, business and growing your dream lifestyle. Are you ready? Let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to Lifestyle Property, and welcome to a special interview with a wonderful gentleman called Jonny Landels. And I was really keen to bring Jonny onto the podcast. So in recent weeks you've heard from George and Hannah, who have built a very large property portfolio, and I myself have built a very large investment portfolio in the past 5 to 6 years. But I'm very aware that lots of my audience are either just starting out or you're in the early stages, first to 3-4 years. I want to bring some perspective and relevance and support for you guys as well. So I brought Jonny on, and we've just had the most amazing conversation, the most amazing interview. He's an inspiration. He's got a wonderful mindset we can all learn from, and he's a great man. So I won't butcher the introduction for John. I'll let the interview do the talking, but it just shows what's possible, because Jonny runs a separate health and wellbeing business, and he's had his first child, and he's developed his own home. So even though he's had all those distractions and so many reasons not to keep growing his investment portfolio, they've still done really well. So there's a huge amount of value, inspiration and lessons and learnings from this podcast. It is a great man. I really encourage you to connect with Jonny as well, and I'll put his contact details in the show notes. So here is the most amazing interview with Jonny Landels, and I hope you get a lot of value from it. Welcome, Jonny Landels. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Jamie, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be. I'm honoured to be asked.
Honoured, I like that. So yeah, I really want to. Yeah, I've had some people on the podcast recently who are 5, 6, 7 years into property investment and have built large portfolios, and that's all good and well. But there's a big gap between those who've got 6, 7 years experience and those from starting from scratch, and I think you're right in the middle, which is beautiful. So yeah, I think there'll be a lot of value for for my audience today. What I'd like to start with, Jonny, is you. So can you tell me and tell us about you and your background and your story? That'd be amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. So I'm in my mid-30s now, which sometimes cripples me to say, but I live with my family in Leeds. So I've got a wife and a daughter. She's just over 1. And we've got a couple of Labradors as well. My background is I grew up in Carlisle in the northwest of England, and then bounced about a bit really after that. I went to uni in Preston studying musical theatre. I then went to Wales to drama school to continue that. So I did a musical theatre masters at drama school and moved to London for 3 years after that, as I tried to kind of make it as a musical actor. Auditioning for such shows like Les Mis and Phantom and all the rest of it. So never getting any of those roles. But I did do a couple of sort of small musicals and pantos and things like that. So I did a bit of paid work. But I made my trade as a personal trainer and CrossFit coach, actually, while I lived down there.
Okay. Nice.
And then after London, I moved up to Leeds with actually my ex-partner. And after we broke up, I just stayed in Leeds because I really liked it. But where property fits into that is that in my sort of early 20s, my mum, my brother and I came into some money because my grandma passed away, and she left me and my brother her entire house. She left us a percentage share in her business. She also owned the building that her business was in. So we kind of got a payout for kind of like her shares in the business, and we got, my brother and I got rent every month for owning 5% of this building, basically, and just the business being running in the building. So that was like my first taste of like what commercial property was like. A business is paying me rent. How weird is this?
Oh, right. This is nice. Yeah.
yeah. So what we did is we sold the house in Penrith, which is where my grandparents lived, and my mum had got some money from selling her business that my dad and her had ran, and we then put all of that into property. So we bought like 5 houses between the three of us, basically, when I was in my early 20s.
When was this, Jonny? What year roughly?
I think I was on Homes Under the Hammer in 2012. 2013, because we bought a property on auction and did it up, and Homes Under
Right.
the Hammer and stuff were there. So I'm on a Homes Under the Hammer episode of like way back when, in like my leather
Got to watch
jacket.
that one.
I,
Got to watch that one.
I get screenshots of that every time it airs. So
Great.
that's a little claim to property fame for you. Are you even in property if you've not been on Homes Under the Hammer?
Not really, have you?
Yeah.
So really, yes, your experience you started 12, 13 years ago. Amazing.
It was more like I was
Ish.
very much a backseat sort of bystander.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? A lot of that was driven by
Yeah.
my mum, and a lot of property decisions kind of always were. And it wasn't until a few years ago, sort of just I think it was during COVID or just after COVID, that my wife and I started listening to sort of property podcasts and
Mm.
learning more about creative property strategies. And we learned about the Property Investor Network, and so I went to my first one of those, which was on Zoom at the time. And that was kind of how we began the let's do more in property, and be a bit more involved with it, right? And that led us to try just about everything, right? Like, when you get started in property, it's like, oh, should we source? Should we drop leaflets? Should we do buy to let? Should we do
Mm.
HMOs? Should we do this? Should we do that? And we were kind of getting mentorship at the time from somebody who was great, and he was very patient with us and was teaching us a bit about different strategies, and he kind of kept coming back to the what do you guys want, what are your values, what do you want to work on. And we didn't really know how that fit with things. We were just like, well, we just want to invest in property, so let's like just keep trying. And we did do some creative stuff, so we borrowed money to buy the house that we're in now. And we kept Natalie's flat as a buy-to-let property, and then we borrowed the money to develop this house. So we turned it from a 2-bed end terrace to a 4-bed end terrace with 3 bathrooms, utility room, round the corner type access. And we refinanced and took the money out to pay back that investment. But it was through that mentorship towards the end of it that we thought, okay, well, we really like design. Well, Natalie really likes design, my wife. She really likes design and high-end sort of paint and interior work. I'm into health and fitness. We love kind of producing sort of great spaces, and that was when the idea for serviced accommodation came along. I actually saw your business partner Phil speak at a Property Investor Network and was like, oh, SA sounds cool. That would be a really good. Let's do that. And we sort of had this idea then of how can we mix health and well-being with holiday homes, and that became our focus. And we then did a mentorship with yourselves, right? You and Phil, which gave us a lot of the knowledge and the guidance towards how can we actually run large scale holiday lets. How can we find them? How can we make sure that they're going to do well? How do we source and stack and do all of those great things? And through that, plus my network, we were just given a great opportunity on a rental property in Malham in the Yorkshire Dales, and we just went for it. We set that up in March, April last year. We did everything that we said we were going to do, which was
March, April 2024.
Yeah, correct.
Right.
And we've been running that now for the last however many months that is. 9 months? So we went live in April, and it's gone much better than we expected.
Good.
So it's that kind of leads us to here.
Yeah. So you've just packed in about 15 years into about 5 minutes. So well done, Jonny. let me unpack some of that. So you really got serious about investing in property. Would you say 3-4 years ago ish during COVID?
Yeah. Well, probably 4 or 5 now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It's crazy how time's gone on. And it was so. It sounds like, because I had a similar start. It sounds like that the kind of start for your guys' journey was a little bit messy because you didn't know what to focus on, goals, and did that lead you into just looking at lots of different types of strategies, lots of areas?
yeah, it was just shotgun approach. It was just like we were
Mm,
reading every book that we can or could, if we keep using the past tense. We were reading every book that we could, and we were just like, oh, yeah, Leeds has got loads of opportunity of properties that need value. Let's go leaflet drop in this area. Let's go leaflet drop in that area. Let's search Rightmove. Let's do some letters, like landlord letters. Let's source properties for people to try and make cash. Do you know what I mean? We
yeah.
I mean, I even went through the first stages of trying to become a compliant property sourcer before my head just fell off with the admin, to be honest, of like, not knowing the right places to go to and buy. And yeah, it was an interesting time.
Well, it's a really, really familiar story. So did I, and a lot of people that I know, because we get bombarded, don't we? We get excited. I
Mm,
think we get excited, then we get bombarded with, ooh, lease options, ooh, HMO, ooh, SA, who buy to let, ooh, flips, commercial conversions. Particularly if you live in a good investment area, and
mm,
anything north of Coventry or south of London's pretty good to invest in yield wise. Then you got lots of options and lots of choice, and it
mm.
leads to overwhelm. So you've done, yeah. So you've worked through that messy period. Sounds like your initial mentor was trying to get you on the right path,
Yeah.
and then you've seen my business partner Phil speak at a pin, and then you joined our SA masterclass, and it's really kicked on from there. So the rent to rent that you've done, you mentioned there that it's exceeded your expectations. What
Mm.
were your expectations, and how's it done in the past 9 months?
Well, it's one of those things where we get expectations met from like Air DNA or Sykes projections and
Mm-hmm.
things. And I think a Sykes projection that we had on the property was something like, oh, this property probably could garner about 50,000 worth of bookings in a year. And they give you that kind of classic line, don't they, of this will improve with marketing and time spent on it and blah blah fish cake. And we just thought, well, I'm not sure really that that's what we'd be going for, but it's the numbers still work, and like let's go for it. We thought we'd be able to exceed that anyway, but not probably by the way that we have done. And I was just looking back through my messages to kind of get the numbers right, and these numbers are out of date because Natalie informed me this morning that we've had obviously bookings since this time. But when I had a collection of data in December, we've had 89,000 worth of bookings with 77.8 thousand after commission, and that's from April 24, which obviously includes bookings in 2025 that we've got currently. We've already got Christmas and everything booked out for this year coming. And I think Natalie's just passing me a post-it note now as I speak. 130,000
Teamwork.
worth, 130,000 worth of bookings. It's now at
130,000
um,
within 9 months.
yeah, with the average monthly revenue being 7,000.
Mm. Brilliant, well done. If my podcast allowed for noise input, there'd be little cheers there, a little applause. So hopefully people listening along can give you an applause, which is amazing. Let's dig into that, because this is fascinating. So it was messy to start with, looking at loads of strategies, like a lot of us do.
Mm.
Then you've locked in. Then you found your main strategy. You found your niche. Um, but it's only been live for less than a year. So why do you think this was your first deal, your first rent to rent? Why do you think it's been so successful?
I put it down to a couple of things. It's quite a unique property because it's a house attached to an annex, and
Mm-hmm.
so we actually rent it out as three different properties. So you could rent that with your partner, Jamie, if for one bed and stay there. You could rent it out with a group of friends and stay in the 4 bed, or you could rent out with a bigger group of friends or family and book the whole place, so the 5 bed. So we have 3 listings on the OTAs, and we've got 3 listings on our direct channel manager of 1 bed, 4 bed, or 5 bed. And we've got the cross booking so that if somebody books the 1 bed, then the 5 bed gets blocked and only the 4 bed is available. And vice
Mm-hmm.
versa. If someone blocks the 4 bed, the 5 bed gets blocked, only the 1 bed is available. And so even in quiet months, we've had consistent bookings throughout the week in the 1 bed, with the weekends consistently being booked as a 4 or 5 bed. And it means that in January, for example, we've had a 70% occupancy on the one bed property because people love going, and it's got its own hot tub. So across the whole site, we've got 2 hot tubs. If you book the 5 bed, you've got 2 kitchens, 3 bathrooms, 5 bedrooms, one of which is en suite, 2 hot tubs, and a hell of a lot of space and amenities basically then for big groups of people or families, which it's popular with families definitely over the holiday periods. And then the second, well, actually, there might be 3 things. Second thing would be the well-being twist we've really lent into to be very niche with. So we converted the 2-car garage to a yoga studio by just putting laminate flooring down, putting mirrors on the wall, and putting curtains around the walls, and then being like, "Hey, we've got a yoga studio," for very
Well, it
little
is, yeah.
effort and money. And my marketing strategy has involved a lot of retreat host Facebook groups to say, book your retreat here. And we've had 4 retreats, I think, booked so far, with more to be booked in the future. And then also we've got meditation spaces and that yoga studio with access to a bunch of local providers from a local wellbeing house. So if guests want to book massages or Pilates or yoga or things like that, we can book that for them and have experts show up on site to facilitate that. And then, of course, it's just brilliantly designed, right? Great paintwork, great
Oh, it's beautiful.
interior
Yeah.
design, great staging, great photography. And then my marketing strategy was to talk about it all of the time when we were setting it up and get it live on the booking channels before it was ready. So I got it live on the channels with the pictures of the current state and said, we're renovating it. We're offering a great discount for the first couple of months. And we actually turned the discount off after 1 month because we'd had an influx of bookings in the first month anyway. So the first month of April, filled up really,
Amazing.
really quickly.
You've been taught very well. But for anyone, so the weakness of a podcast is it's audio only. Honestly, Johnny's been very humble there when he said it's very well designed. It's absolutely gorgeous. So I'm going to pop Johnny's Facebook perhaps and some other things into the show notes. Connect
Yeah.
with Johnny and then check it out because it's
Feel
absolutely
free to put
beautiful.
the property listing in as well, and people can check it out on the listing channels of what it looks like and how it's, how it's set up and everything as well.
Good idea. So what's next? So we were just talking off air about a really exciting new deal. So you've kind of started in rent to rent. I think that's clearly now giving you cash flow, credibility, confidence, and now you're moving into buying, which is really exciting.
Yes, yeah. So this, as you said, right, like the biggest question I get at Leeds pin meetings, because I didn't mention as part of the background, I'm now on the kind of helping team of the Leeds pin meeting, and I speak on the pin circuit and stuff as well. So I've been doing that for a while. The biggest question I get when I talk to people about this project is, how did you have the confidence to go ahead with it? That's the jump, right? Is the risk. I'd say to anyone there, rent to rent is a great way to do it, because if you have a good clause with the owner and things, you can kind of mitigate your risks, and it's more of like a punt, isn't it, to see if it works. But obviously you do your due diligence to make sure you know your numbers. And with the purchase, it's a similar area. It's a slightly bigger project. So it's actually an old bed and breakfast that's just been deserted. It's been left to kids who don't live in the area. So it's a property that's just empty. Got a huge kind of downstairs area across kind of 3 reception rooms and a sort of back room. And then it's got 3 ensuite bedrooms upstairs, and then a really big room with a kind of second half. So effectively the owners like lived in one half and then they ran the bed and breakfast out of the other side, is how it was. So what our plans are is to convert it to an 8-bed ensuite property and run it as a holiday home. We have had ideas of, okay, could we run it as an apart hotel and rent out the downstairs commercially to a cafe or something, because it would be an area where a new cafe or restaurant would still do very, very well. Having looked at the books of the cafes in the same village and stuff, and knowing what they do. But we're going to run with the holiday let strategy first, and we can always pivot if we need to. But based on, again, Air DNA and Sykes projections, as well as what we've been doing in a similar area, we've got confidence that it would run just as well.
Mm. There's so much to unpack there because I'm seeing this from a different. So you've focused on your area that you've gotten to know, which is great. You found a motivated vendor, retired and it's empty. It
Mm.
sounds like you've found an ethical, creative win-win with them, and you've got various exit plans, various potential strategies, which therefore reduces risk, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm going to put you on the spot now, and what kind of numbers are involved in the deal? So purchase price, refurb, expected GDV.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we didn't even mention the creative purchase, right? So
No, we
they
didn't.
wanted they wanted far too much from it originally, and if you
Hmm.
looked it up online, it will say sold STC because we are in legals now, but you'll see a higher price than online that what we agreed. So we agreed a purchase price of 650,000.
Hmm.
We've bought it using an exchange with delayed completion, which means that we're going to exchange contracts and then we'll do the refurb work and we'll complete the purchase once we have completed the refurb work, right? So we'll add the value upon the purchase. So we'll make money there. We have to put down 10% as a goodwill gesture, as a because at first they were very not up for the idea at all of EDC, but we carefully explained to them that we couldn't get a mortgage on the property due to the state of the electrics and water and things that are in place now, and we were their only interest for however many years that it's been on, right? So
Mm.
we gave them 10% down. The refurb will be about 200,000, based on that. But that's going to include kind of furniture, staging, and setup as well.
Hmm.
And then we're very conservative with the GDV. The GDV that we're currently going with is between 900 to 950, but there have been properties in, you know, less than a mile away that have gone for over 1 mil, that have been, like 4 bed, 5 bed, up to a great standard. Whereas, of course, this will be 8 bed. The difference is this doesn't have much land attached to it, but in my opinion, it's a much more popular area. So I've got high hopes for the GDV, but of course, we like to under promise just in case.
Amazing. So it's quite a leap, isn't it? There. So going from these are brilliant numbers and a great and perhaps we'll unpack because obviously we're aware of exchange with delay completions. We've done them, but there'll be people listening in where you'd probably just blown their head. So we'll maybe cover that. But what do you think's giving you beyond the rent to rent?
Mm.
Which obviously is one aspect for sure, which is giving you confidence and clarity because you've seen the booking numbers. What's also giving you and your partner that confidence because it's you've leaped from um, a a relatively risk-free strategy, rent to rent, into a larger purchase, which we know
Mm.
works better numbers wise, but you've you've still had to have a really good mindset and confidence to move into that kind of project. So beyond the rent to rent, you
Mm.
mentioned that you're talking on the PIN network, which will do good. Is there are there other kind of contributing factors which have helped you?
Yeah, I'd say that because the creative deal that we did in the property that we're living in now, right? Like that was a double story extension, and
Mm.
so kind of going through a big refurb and managing it was our first taste of it. And of course, we made mistakes as everyone does, but we learned from it and we've improved our systems and our mindset going forward for this next one. And then having the mentorship with yourselves was very helpful because you see what's possible both in terms of what you guys are doing as well as what other people in the group manage to do. And I think going to networking sessions regularly with people who are doing really big things or have big portfolios just shows you what is possible with that
Mm.
mindset of confidence and attitude, right? Like, and everybody who I've met in property is very realist. They're like, it's really difficult. Things can go wrong. You might need to pivot. You might need to do this. You might need to do that. But the rewards, if you keep going, are there. But you do have to have that attitude of like hard work, belief, and perseverance, really. Um, so I think all of those things help show you what is possible if you stop saying the words "I can't" and stop asking yourself how.
Yeah, spot on. Amen. Let's end the podcast right there. But it's you're really right in terms of our environments. It's very important. You call it what we like. You know, being part of a team, a tribe, a network. It's true because we need that because we get inspired, and it's certainly something that's helped me as well. Is when you're around others who have simply done what you've wanted to do, they pull you up to their level, and then that keeps happening and keeps happening, and then before you know it, you've built this amazing thing, which is amazing. So let's talk about exchange with a delay completion. So for anyone's not aware of this strategy, it's quite common. So if you think of an auction purchase as technically an exchange with a delay completion because you're exchanging contracts right away, but rather than completing, they'll give you maybe 28, 56 days to complete. Think of it like a installment purchase. So what it's I'm aware of the answer to this question, but I want to ask it anyway for the benefit of the audience. What allowed you to secure something where you're putting 10% down rather than 25% down? You mentioned that they didn't have much interest, but what else allowed you to kind of secure this more creative offer, which is a lot better for you with those particular vendors?
Yeah, I think it is just that combination of the right offer at the right time and the motivated seller. You know, like we'd been viewing the property for a while, and we'd been chatting with them for a lot of time, and we'd been talking sort of different offer numbers and things, and different ways of working. And I don't have a better answer for you than just we put the offer down, willing to spend more, and just
Mm,
thought, well, you know, if they accept it, then it's you know it's great, and it sweetens the deal basically because they've come to that understanding that there's this much on this property that people actually can't even get a normal mortgage on it. How are we going to sell it to anyone unless it's a cash purchase that's much lower? And we told them that would be their alternative, and I think they'd already had an offer from like a pub in the same village, but
mm.
for a much lower cash value. So they'd had that as their like reality of the alternative of like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
like
about.
actually this is our best offer, and we're going to get some money now which we frankly don't need, and we're going to have a secured, you know, it's a legal agreement as well, right? It's not an option.
Mhm.
And it's really funny how when I've posted about this in certain Facebook groups, you know, people have gone like, "Oh, did you secure an option on it as well?" Just to make sure. I'm like, I don't need that because
No, no, no,
it's
no,
an
no.
EDC. Like, read the post again. It's a legally binding contract, and they're like, "Oh well, you better hope the sellers don't pull out." They can't because it's an EDC. Do you know what I mean? And so it's more secure for
Well,
both
we,
of
we
us
can't we
being
can't
this
ever
way.
blame those. Yeah, we can't blame those people. Bless them, because they go on a 1 day course. And it happened to me 6 years ago. I heard about lease options and buying properties for £1, and my head was turned. So let's give everyone listening in though some clarity now on what this means. So what Johnny's talking about is this it's a lot more secure than a lease option because you've exchanged contracts. So there's a legal responsibility for Johnny and his partner to buy the property, and there's a legal responsibility for it to be sold. So the deal's done. And whenever you're spending money on a refurb, it's very important to exchange contracts because Johnny's mentioned there that all in setup, refurb, furniture, everything is 200k. You would not want to put 200k down if it just had an option agreement because they are looser. So you've exchanged contracts, but rather than putting down 25% deposit, you're only putting down 10%. So what that's allowed Johnny to do here is significantly increase his returns, still give a really ethical, fair win-win for the vendor, and it's secure. It's a legal agreement. We've exchanged contracts. It's deal done. So it's a really, really good example of right solution for the right vendor at the right moment, really secured. So you were definitely right to use that one, Johnny, and not to use the lease option. Yeah, you were spot on. So I want to
Yeah.
ask some kind of questions which will help the audience because you're the first guest that I've had on that's not been in property for say 6 to 10 years plus. So
Mhm.
you and your partner have been really interested in it for the past 3 to 4 years, which will catch a lot of people. So again, I'm going to put you on the spot with some kind of like, and answer these however just is natural. But what would you guys say have been your biggest mistakes? So over the past
Oh.
3-4 years, since you started to put more focus on it,
Hmm.
what are the biggest mistakes you guys have made?
Uh, Probably refurb management have been the biggest ones, right? In terms of like not having a better management strategy and putting too much trust into tradespeople.
Hmm.
Not that they're not untrustworthy people, but I think just in terms of what we've had experiences of, for example, the property that we're in now, we had to knock through the kitchen to extend and knock through the other side of the house to extend, which meant the staircase had to completely change, add a banister to, and a lot of internal works basically. Knock through the bathroom to create a different bathroom and make that into a bigger room. Create a utility room and bathroom downstairs rather than a kitchen. There was a lot of structural work to be done, and they kind of convinced us that the quickest way to go would be to move out of the property. My wife was heavily pregnant at the time, and we moved into her mum's house, which is out in Ripondon, and we live in Leeds. So it's about 30, 40 minutes based on, depending on traffic on the M62. And so it's not far, but it's far enough. And we didn't have like the Monday morning visit, the Wednesday visit, and the Friday visit. We kind of left it to the guy to project manage. He had his own team. And his team was just useless. Basically, he had an apprentice that couldn't do anything, and he had the guy that did all the electrics and plumbing was his dad, who was just rogue. Would turn up sometimes, not turn up the other times. And Natalie was kind of project managing that because she was on maternity leave and I was working full time, and they just they just
Yeah.
clashed a lot basically because of he started acting a bit like a naughty school child, like, oh, well, I have been there on this day doing X. And, we'd turn up after a week and not much had changed, or they'd say like, oh, this will be done by X time. And it wasn't done. And it just, it dragged out so much. We were supposed to be
Yeah.
back in the house before Natalie gave birth in October. And she gave birth and the property still wasn't ready. Right. So I was traveling to Leeds Infirmary from Ripondon, and it was a very stressful time. I'm not going to lie. I think we got in around Christmas time, 2023. So it went over and it still wasn't done by January. We ended up having to get different people to do kind of final bits of work and safety certs and things like that, just because we kind of had that much of a breakdown in relationship and communication. So that was a big mistake.
Mm.
Probably
What would you what would you do differently if you did that again? What steps would you do differently to make sure that wouldn't happen?
I think the thing that because the thing is, we try to mitigate it a lot, right? Natalie is a very detailed woman and has very extensive written communication with people in terms of, what we need, like what, the style, design, what fixtures we're buying, all the rest of it. So we try to mitigate a lot of risk in terms of what costs might be and what timescales would be. And it was effectively them that kind of kept moving the goalposts of the timescales or doing different jobs when they were supposed to be doing other jobs, and then saying, oh, we're halfway between different jobs and stuff. So it's kind of difficult to know. Because you could say, oh, well, we should have visited more often. But even then, if you're working with people who are going to work that way or move the goalposts or effectively kind of gaslight you and say, oh, we never said that. And then you pull up the email and you're like, here it is in the written word, that, they had a full schedule that just wasn't stuck to. I'm kind of unsure.
So
So going
team
forward, what we've done is much more
choice of
extensive
choice of team
floor
maybe.
plans. Yeah, maybe. I think it's that this time round, we spoke to a lot of people about doing that work, and then it came down more to availability than anything else, as well as people actually showing up and quoting and getting back to you and things like that. It was a time just after COVID where tradesmen were in very short supply and were kind of picking and choosing jobs. So my wife had a very hard time. She contacted a lot of people and spoke with a lot of people, but then who would ever get back to you to confirm prices or timescales or when they could start? It was quite rare.
Well, it
So
was
going forward,
it sounds like it was during the kind of post-COVID refurb bubble where everyone was spending significant stupid money. So yeah,
yeah,
quotes and refurbs were hard at that stage. They were.
Yeah, it was definitely that stage
They
because we
were.
found it
Away, away,
much
away.
simpler since.
Away from okay, so yeah, that's better. So yeah, I think we had a signal issue. So this is that's a mistake which you've learned from. How about since then? So in the past year, on either the rent to rent or the portfolio, or even before then, when you were looking at sourcing and this and that, are there any other big mistakes which jump out to you, or should we say big lessons you've learned?
Yeah, because it's interesting, isn't it? Because, like, you could say that our starting property was quite chaotic and unfocused, but I wouldn't necessarily call it a mistake
Yeah,
because it was definitely a period of time where we were finding our feet and learning a lot, and then deciding what was important and how we wanted our lives to look like. And it was through all of that sort of messy, busy work that we came to the conclusion of let's do holiday let's focus on health and well-being, let's focus on design, let's focus on creating these kind of great big spaces and run a business that way. So I wouldn't see any of those as mistakes. I just see it as the lessons and the time spent doing it that you have to learn from. I'd say that if we would have made a mistake, it probably would have been to give up and stop doing it. Thankfully, we didn't make any massive mistakes that cost anybody huge amounts of money or time or energy. It was purely just our time spent either leafleting properties or visiting properties that never brought us anything. But yeah, I wouldn't call those mistakes. I'd say the biggest mistake was probably that refurb management. But again,
yeah.
as you said, right, apart from selection of team and being a bit more there in person to try and mitigate issues, there's not much more we could have done. Going forward, what we have done is, we've contacted similar volumes of people, but we've been much cleverer with like Gantt charts being produced. Like I've got someone in my network who used to be in construction, who's kind of investing in property and stuff at the minute. So him and I have been helping each other out a bit. So he produced me a kind of Gantt chart with the full works of what we're doing on this next project, and then we did floor plans and a detailed schedule of works based off of that Gantt chart with very specific, placements of sockets and what types of sockets and what are we doing when. And I'm meeting a build team up there again this afternoon for a second visit with even more people, so that we can be like, here's the scope of things. And it's a much bigger team of people, right? It's not two men and an apprentice, and one of which who works half time. It's like a full team of professional tradespeople who can work there all at the same time. So hopefully it'll run a lot smoother.
So I must say, Johnny, I love your mindset. So yeah, this is the mindset: we win or we learn. So because when I've asked you what your biggest mistakes are, you've very rightly corrected me and said, well, no, actually, all that messy period early on, you've learned through it. So if you learn through it, then it's not a mistake, it's not a loss, is it? And then it's allowed you. And I think something to really touch upon as well is what you're doing differently now. Is you've mentioned network a few times, so it's really cheesy, and we've all heard it. Your network is your net worth, but just the bigger our network, the more support we've got, the more help we've got. So you've mentioned you've got someone helping you with Gantt charts and floor plans, and those kind of things. They allow us to scale, don't they? They
Mm,
allow us to move into bigger and better things. Certainly, every single project I've done and ever will do is because of the people around me. It's not because of me. And it's the
mm,
same now for your project. Now you're very focused on team and network, and that's what's allowing you to do this amazing project.
yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. Like, it is a cliche statement, but it's just so true, right? And
Yeah.
as I said, because I help on the lead spin team, I meet a lot of people, and I meet a lot of people that I see who might come a couple months and then I'll never see them again. And I always wonder what happened to these people. Where do they go? What are they doing? Are they successful and they just choose another network meeting, or if they stop networking altogether because they didn't, because people are like, oh, I'm looking for, XYZ, or, I'm looking for investors. Obviously, they don't say they're looking for investors, but you can kind of tell that's why they're there. Um, and they give up maybe after two or three goes because they're like, "Nah, it's not working."
It
It's like
didn't work.
trying
It's broken.
yeah, it's like trying a fitness program for like 3 months, and being like, "It's not working. I give up." And it's like, these things take compounding effort over years and years, right? So like, if I've been going to Leeds Pin since 2020, 2021 when it was on Zoom, and I'm still going, right? Like, I've now got a contact list within my WhatsApp of hundreds of people in property. I speak on the PIN circuit as well, so I've got loads of different hosts of PIN meetings who I speak with, and it is that mindset of like who, not how. So I'm like, right, I'm going through this big refurb. Who do I know who's got a lot of experience with construction? Who can I ask for advice? Who can I ask for recommendations from? Who knows somebody who can help me with this? And it's so much quicker, right? Because it's like, oh, cool, I've got a ream of people who can help me with this. I've got much more confidence now in my numbers and my timescales because I've spoken to so many more people about it. And it means that you can show up to trades meetings with much more of a confident attitude of what you're doing, right?
Mm.
Like if you go to a mechanic and you're like, I don't really know what's wrong with my car and I don't know how much it's going to cost, they're probably going to say, oh, yeah, well, your philosopher's stone is out of place and you really need a new, chariot in the back. And you're just going to be like, okay, yeah, here's 20 grand. But and it's similar with refurbs, but if you go up there and you're like, here's my schedule of works, I've been looking around, it's probably going to take 15 to 16 weeks, here's my Gantt chart, I know that refurb costs, I know that this is the price of plasterboard and blah, blah, blah. They're just going to be like, yeah, we can't pull the wool over this person's eyes, and they're professionals, so if we do a good job, they're probably going to give us more work. So they're going to be more inclined to give you a good rate and a good product and work with you again in the future.
Amen, 100%. What you're doing there, Johnny, is reducing risk, because if ever you're thrown a challenge, let's say a sourcing project refurb, then it's a mindset of who, not how. So if you can't solve that, who do you know who can? And
Yeah.
and then you grow together, and it allows you to scale. And I must say, it's really, really nice hearing you talk about these things, because it's something that obviously we covered on our training, but that was some time ago now. But it's so right. If you have that solution orientated mindset and grow your team around you and grow your support around you, and then something that you touched on a few times as well, just not giving up. So it's property is very, very forgiving sector. So should anything go wrong, let's say the market dips or refurbs got more expensive, you get down valued over time. We all know properties go up in value. So if anything does go wrong, time heals you. So it's really, really forgiving. And all we've basically got to do is choose a strategy, grow a team around us, take action, and never give up. And if
Yeah.
you do that, you'll grow an amazing portfolio. But you're right, so many people give up after, I think, really early on, don't they? Maybe 2 or 3 months in, they don't have any success. And then rather than having the mindset of, it's okay, we're learning from this. Because if you think about back where you were a few years ago, you've treated that as a learning exercise, that messy, should I source, should I do this, should I do that? But a lot of people give up there. And
Yes.
if you give up there, you lose. All you have to do is just not give up and just keep going.
Yeah. I think that's the great statement, isn't it? You either win or you learn. You only lose if you quit. And don't get me wrong, right? There'll be some things that definitely are non-starters that you quit on, but they're probably certain projects or things that you walk away from rather than the strategy itself. Unless you do have a complete change of values and mindset and want to just go off and do something else, which is obviously fair enough. Something that helped me, I think, was knowing how long it took you guys to kind of secure that first deal that worked really well for you, because people are in such a rush to make things happen. They become motivated buyers, right? And then you really are screwed because your deal just doesn't work. It doesn't stack. And I think that was something that, we did your masterclass in January 23 to like April 23. And then it was April 24 that we've had this first property up and running. And it's not like we did nothing in that time. We were viewing properties, we were making offers, we were sending messages to people on open rent, right, for rental properties. We were calling letting agents about rental properties. We were viewing rental properties. We were making offers and just getting turned down. We just got turned down, turned down, turned down, turned down. And the opportunity that we've secured and started running, again, it came from our network, right? Somebody at a PIN meeting was talking about how they source properties, and I'd known her for a while, and I was saying, we're looking at rent to rents and stuff at the minute, and she said, oh, I've got a great contact in the Dales, and she just came out of the blue again wanting to rent it because she sort of disappeared off my radar. We're not doing that anymore, but it'd be perfect for you, come and view it. And then lo and behold, that's the property that we're now running. So it just takes time.
Yeah, amen, amen. But then, no, it's funny. We get the momentum. We get that's something. So, what Johnny was referring to there for everyone else listening, so is me and my business partner. We knew each other for 13, 14 months before we found our first deal, and we were also looking and we were searching. But it sounds like you had other things busy in your life, Johnny, with regards to having your first baby and doing your health as well. So
Yeah.
you need. I think something really, really important is just being kind on ourselves. You know, if we've got a lot going on in life elsewhere, then focus on that. But then when you can get back to doing it, property's slow to start with, but then over time it can really, really accelerate. And you can see Johnny's here now. He's gone from a rent to rent that's already brought him more than £100,000, and now he's doing a huge holiday like EDC, which is amazing, and that momentum's now working positively. So it's really, really exciting.
Mm.
Um, so it's been fascinating for me, Johnny, because to have this kind of conversation with you. I think your mindset's brilliant, and I know you're going to do amazing because of that support network around you. Who, not how. So if any challenges do come up, you'll know how to solve them. So we've covered a lot of these for the audience already, but beyond what we've spoken about, Johnny, is there any kind of final tips you've got for people, maybe that are where you were a couple of
Mm.
years ago and just looking at various things and not really getting going? Have you got any tips or advice to finish the podcast on for them?
Yeah, I'd say that if you're in that messy period now of kind of trying a bunch of different things, then I'd say just like honor that period to go through it to come out the other side. Keep asking yourself those deep questions of, what do I really want in life? What do I value? What can I see myself doing? What empire am I trying to build? Because those really are important questions. Like, if you just say to yourself, I just want to earn more money or I just want to be financially free, it's like, yeah, okay, but go deeper. Like, ask yourself why a lot more, because do you want a portfolio of HMOs that you then have to employ 10 people to try and manage? And then you're just a manager of like this huge empire that's, balanced on a bit of a knife edge. Or do you want to run holiday lets like, Jamie and myself? Because for a bit of that time, unless you have a business partner, you're also a hospitality manager and you're a marketer. And it involves a lot of energy in those things. It involves, a lot of people skills. Do you know your personality inside and out, and are you partnered with people who can complement your weaknesses? Because that's obviously where my partner and I are strong, in that she's great with details and design and kind of management, and I'm all about the people, right? Like, I podcast, I speak, I network, I build relationships, I manage the guests, I market the properties, right? That's all of that, because those are my skill sets, particularly as a trained musical theatre actor, right? Like, I can speak for Britain and I have no shame, right? I'll stand up anywhere and give you my life story. So those are all really important questions. And then once you start getting through that, Jamie's advice was become a sniper rather than a shotgun wielder. And so if you say, right, I know that this is really important to me, and a great route for me to get going is rent to rents or sourcing, whatever it might be, or a combination, then you just need to go, how much time can I spend on this business? Where is that time going to be best spent? What are the high leverage strategies that are going to provide me with the results that I'm looking for? And now, how do I commit to that? And then it's just committing to the grunt work, right? Like, if you looked at my calendar, I split my time between two businesses. So I time block like crazy. I've got time blocks for property. I've got time blocks for fitness. I've got time blocks for all of these different specific jobs within the business. And I'm very, very clear with, how many clients I can take on, how many people I can do X, Y, Z with. And then with property, I'm very clear on when am I marketing, when am I building relationships, when am I doing the refurb work, when am I doing viewings, and you've just got to then stick to the grunt work and stick to those relentless repetitive tasks. And through that, if you keep going, you cannot fail. But you've got to fall in love with the process at the end of the day.
Amen. There is a lot to unpack there, but if you just keep going, you will get there 100%. So I just want to recap. So what I've certainly noticed in the past 45 minutes of talking to Johnny is brilliant mindset, great focus, clear plan, lots of self-awareness, great network, great support, taking action, belief, teamwork, and then just persistence. So if you mix all that up in a drink, sell that drink, that'll be a very popular energy drink. We'll all have one, and that's all we need. That's all we need. So I think your story is going to really inspire a lot of people, Jonny, and particularly what you do because of your niche within well-being and fitness and holiday lets. I think it's very smart and very you as well. I think people will be very interested in that. Where's the best place for people to connect with you? So we'll put all this in the show notes, but where do you like people to reach out to you from?
Yeah, so for property, the best places would be Facebook and LinkedIn, which is my name, Jonny Landels. I'll send you the links, Jamie, to avoid people spelling it because both my first and last name are a bit of a nightmare. We do have a property Instagram account, which is feature properties, as in like a feature wall, and the word properties. And I'm being more active there, with before and afters and reels, particularly of the kind of the work we're doing on the Carlisle HMOs, which we're actually we didn't even talk about this.
We never covered.
We never covered. We're going to rent out one of those as a contractor accommodation. So if you want to kind of see how that journey goes, I'm documenting a lot of that on Instagram. So those 3 places will be the best places to go to.
Amazing, Jonny. Amazing. I've absolutely loved today. I really respect and love your mindset. And I think if you just keep doing what you're doing, I can't wait to see where you are in 1, 2, 3, 4 years time. It's really exciting. And in this deal, I'd love to come and see it because it's an amazing deal. You find a really ethical win-win, big holiday let. It's going to smash it. It's really exciting. So thank you for coming on. You've given loads of value and we'll catch up soon.
Yeah. Thanks, Jamie. Pleasure.
Thank you, mate. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Lifestyle Property Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you could leave us a review so we can reach and help more people. I'll also be giving one person who leaves a review a free family holiday to one of our luxury holiday lets. Thank you and see you next time.